quietly, ever so quietly, we kissed. And I was fighting, because Evelyn, she was already thinking of him. What if he can't? I took her out to the labs in the alley where we smoked and kissed her, just to stop her thinking about those questions. And I held her round the ribs to keep me there and keep him out, and hold the better times at bay. And what was it in the end but the same old after all? Some of the factories stopped producing armaments straight away and went back to being tram sheds and railway shops. Ours carried on for a few months, and I worked so hard turning those shell cranks I could have kept the whole army running just by myself. I was up before they knocked at the window in the morning, up and running and hauling my arms back in those overalls, feeling the pinch in my muscles till lunchtime at least. She came in every day like she had to drag herself there. Her noggin wasn't in it. Lord knows where her heart was. Lovely little Evelyn. So I decided, if the old world's going back to old again, women to their men or their kiddies, I wasn't going to be part of that. Oh, I had a man once show me his prick. Hard as a brass shell casing he must have thought it was. He looked so proud. I took it, jolly enough, but I itched to get out from under and pull my skirt back down. What a telling off I wanted to give him, to think of taking charge of me like that, to make such a maul of it. Well, no, not for me. So I'm gone and far away. The last 3 days I got woken not by the knocker up, but by the ship's bell. Morning, darling. That big girl in the green hat out on deck again. I haven't asked her name yet, but I might. A wink and a little look, and then she stands up at the rail, holding on with those lovely fat canary fingers. They've seen some action, those fingers. There's a wind got up and it's blowing her long grey coat about like a flag. Looks like we'll get some rain in a bit. I shouldn't wonder. We're well out to sea now. Haven't seen nothing on either side since tea time yesterday. "You've got a letter where you're going?" she asked me. I have got a letter. A little house, just big enough and quiet enough, and a bit of work on a farm. Never even touched a sheep in my life, but I can turn my hand to most things, and I never lost all that muscle. I've got another letter too, much more precious, much less tidy and polite. I've got both letters, but I'm not sure enough about her to say about either of them. Girl I'm sharing with has got a husband lined up. Never met him, of course. Probably a half-wit or a strangler. Acting like some foreign prince. She eyes me. You got one lined up? I'm not much for a husband. Me neither. She's got a cigarette out of the pocket of her overcoat. Had one once, that was enough. She has a job getting a match going in the wind that's coming off the sea. But she does it eventually, sucks on the cigarette and then points it at my left cheek. How'd you get that? Same way every other body did. Sparks off the trucks, shell went off. Crying shame. I shrug because I hardly feel like that. There's 100 women on this boat with a scar or something missing, holding their suitcases in yellow hands at the ramp at Plymouth. I read in the Echo they called us surplus. Me, I'm calling it a blessed hope. Praise be, I'm moving on to happier things. Who are you sharing with anyway? I've not seen you about with another girl. I shrug again, send her a sly wink, a little pat on the letter in my pocket, and watch her smile around the cig. Can see her thinking things. When the accident happened, the men who had already started following their letters home. There were good surprises and bad for the girls who'd been waiting. I couldn't hardly bear to look at Evelyn in those days, even though I felt sick for wanting to. She moved around the machines like someone who was having a dream of a completely different place. And just then I thought I knew exactly what that place was. The new old, better, worse times were here at last. Some of the women had left the factory already and men taken their places. The women's bunkhouse had emptied, and I used to see some who lived on the same terrace as me in their kitchen windows of a morning. The men who used to shout at me in the road by the factory on account of our wages had shut up now the other men who had something real to shout about were home, though most of those ones were quiet as an empty shoe. We were fitting on the fuses, me and 3 others, and Evelyn over the way at shelf 31, taking the trolley back and forth. It was quieter in this block away from the lathes. We had some chat about the girls' fellas and Florrie Needham that was going to join the new women's labour movement. I only had half an ear for them, listening for when the trolley would roll closer. I felt it all across my back and up my neck, each time she got near. The prickling sort of thing, like something would happen. Like the nearness of her was almost as good as her pressed up against me. She had a thin little body, was all smothered up in those overalls, but we might have been undressed and standing tight together for the way my skin felt her. Here she came, the hollow scrape and clatter of the trolley wheels making a huge metal sound off the brick walls. Then it just seemed to stop. There wasn't any big bang or flash, just a great push of heat at my side, and no noise at all, and we fell over, all four of us. I must have been out for a bit because I just remember Florrie leaning over me and a smell in the air of everything burning. No one was killed in the whole block, which was a great mercy. If we'd been at full production still, it would have been a different story. Burns it was, bad ones in some cases, and broken limbs. A piece of shrapnel had to be got out of my cheek, and my Evelyn lost her right arm down below the elbow. That was how we both left the factory, and I thought never to see her again. But that was before the better times came for me too, before Evelyn learnt to be left-handed.